only 72 hours, but now it takes 21 days. During those 21 days, the car is parked. The car insurance is on that same month. The driver is not working and suffers a loss of 31 days. Therefore, drivers and base owners are asking the commissioner to find them a temporary relief, sometime that they can hold on to during the 21-day period of DFV inspection to avoid dire straight of 21 days of loss of income. 3. The buy and bust style TLC enforcement officers. Traffic violations are not criminal violations in most cases. However, Chelsea officers use the buy and bust tactics like in a drug enforcement case. Extra. Using wheelchairs or carrying walking sticks, which calls upon the driver's highest sense of compassion. 4. They also to make some accommodations that will make it easy for the bases to comply with the wheelchair accessibility demand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's an important series of issues, or a series of important issues, and let me address them all. So that's okay. All right. So first is why fine the base as well and vehicle owner as well as the driver. So we do want the bases to take responsibility for the vehicles that are out on the street, and that means if it doesn't have the proper repair, that's up to it's up to the driver. It's also up to the base owner. If the driver license isn't displayed, it's up to the base owner, and it's up to the driver too. And I stand by that. I mean, the structure of the livery industry is that the drivers are not free agents. Every driver has to be affiliated with a base, and we've had a lot of bases sign up, and every month we're adding more bases. And the reality is, and I think you know this, that you have some of the bases that go into business, and they're not really intending to take phone calls and send people out on trips. They're there just to have drivers pay them a weekly affiliate fee, and I've heard that there are even some that just will make it a one-time affiliation fee. They give them the plates and drivers off. And the purpose here is to make sure that the base is going to take some responsibility for who they affiliate with, and not put out on the street drivers that are not going to obey the rules. And I think that it's important to have that level of accountability. The second question was about the delay in getting inspections. 21 days. I don't think we're anywhere near that. I get every Friday. No, I don't get every day, but every Friday I get a report on what's the wait time to get an inspection. That's what you're talking about, right? An inspection at Woodside for either a new vehicle or one that's being transferred from one to another. It's currently about a 4-day wait. That's what it was on Friday. And what's that? Well, when was the last? When did that happen?
1 month ago, I put out an appointment. I requested for an appointment, and once it's done, I waited for 21 days, and when I called PLC, they told me that they do have an issue with the owner of the car, and they never sent me a letter telling me that the driver was waiting.
Okay. All right, then.
That driver will have a loss because he's still paying his insurance. That's why you put out that question.
Okay, so thank you for that. That's very helpful. And what I will ask is, on some of the individual things, maybe you could collect the specifics of them. I'll say which ones and get them to me, and then I can get a response. So the issue was, okay, first of all, there's the overall issue of how long you wait for inspection. Now, last year, in March, and for some reason, just the way that the licenses are given out, a lot of them expire in February, but then really heavily in March, and then less so, but still heavy in April. So last year around March, we did get to, it was even more than 21 days. It was getting to be a 4 or 5 week wait period for inspection. That was right about when I started, and I said that's unacceptable. We got to bring it down. We spent a lot of overtime dollars to bring that down, and then this year again, as you probably know, we ran Saturday inspection hours for 5 Saturdays in a row to keep that wait time down, because I know every day you're on the road, you're paying insurance, you're paying the note on the car, and you're not out earning. So we do understand that. As I say, last Friday it was about 4 days wait time, and it's been pretty consistently that for several months. Now, you just described, now I understand what you're saying. I guess there's a scheduling group that's 3 people in Long Island, those inspections. They have a problem with one that comes in. They shouldn't sit on it and not tell you. They got to tell you right away. So if you can get me the number of that, then I can track down what happened with that. But I think that's an exception case. In other words, our run-of-the-mill cases, our run-of-the-mill inspections now, we're getting scheduled, I think, at an acceptable time. Thank you for bringing that forward. Okay. Bear with me, because buy and bust. Well, look, and you may not agree with me, but for enforcement of some of our rules, I think it's the inspectors have to do what we're calling buy and bust. The most important one that they do that way are 2. There's, and this is for yellow drivers, not for liveries. It is a rule that a passenger can go 5 hours, and we do this all the time. That passengers call at 311 and they say, I flagged out a cab and on 121st Street or 116th Street, and I ask, well, maybe not that so much, which we'll get to in a second. But I flagged and I asked to go to Brooklyn, or to go, frankly, to 116th Street, and the driver drove off. And the vast drivers work very hard. The 12-hour shift is a long time, and drivers are working every day. We know, because we get from the TPEP, from the TPEP in the cabs. We understand and we see how hard drivers are working. So I don't want anything that I say you to feel like we don't appreciate what a difficult job it is. But there are, by the same token, we do have rules, and the rules are a condition of the license, and we do mean to enforce them. And one of them is the refusal. I don't know if that's what we get at with buy and bust, but we do. We have inspectors 1 shift a week of our enforcement group, so I'm not going to say what day, different day. So 1 day we have a squad of 10 people that does refusal enforcement. They flag down a car, they say, take me to Brooklyn, and if the driver refuses, write a ticket. And I think it's important that people do understand that the rule is that people have a right to go anywhere in the 5 boroughs, and that's part of what makes the taxi service so attractive. And part of what makes it the service is you can flag down and know you can go where you want to go. Now, and we get complaints that don't go to Brooklyn, or frankly don't go to Harlem. And we also get complaints, people who think they were passed by because of their color. And I don't, we don't know why somebody refused service, but we do get complaints about that from passengers. And I think it's important that every New Yorker feel right to taxi. So on the wheelchair accessible, it says allow bases to have their own wheelchair accessible cars, and then make accommodations easy for the bases to comply with the wheelchair accessibility demand. A tricky issue for us, because on the one hand, like when I say all New Yorkers, includes New York workers in wheelchairs should have access to the service of taxi and livery. But we also recognize that there's not a huge demand for this. And so we don't think it makes sense to say that every base should have a wheelchair accessible car, because most of those would sit 365 days, and the rest of them would sit 362 days of the year. So we don't want to impose a burden that is unnecessarily costly on the bases, nor on the yellow taxis. There have been, in fact, I have an email I was just looking at on the way up here from a member of the State Assembly who is furious that we are not requiring every single yellow taxi to be wheelchair accessible, and he's going to get the U.S. Department of Justice on us to force us to make every taxi wheelchair accessible. And so our position is, yes, have to have some capacity for people in wheelchairs to have access to the service, but it does not make economic sense to spend millions and millions and millions of dollars. The demand does not justify that, and it doesn't mean that it's not worth spending money on so that someone in a wheelchair has service. Of course it is. What it means is we shouldn't spend money on what's necessary to provide that service. So what we have proposed, what the TLC has proposed, and we have been working closely with the Livery Roundtable, and I hope that you feel that the Livery Roundtable is representative of your interests. That's the Livery Roundtable on one hand, and with the taxi industry associations on the other hand, is to say, let's make it so somebody can call 311 and get an accessible car sent to them. And the reality is, we don't know what it's probably 50 trips a day, tops. Maybe it's 75, but we think really it's at most 50 trips a day. Somebody will call 311, and this is in whole New York City. We'll call 311 and ask for that. And so what we want to do is we'll designate one provider, one livery base, one taxi dispatcher to take those 311 calls, send out the accessible car, and then every base, or in the case of the yellows, every medallion owner will pay their fair share of what it costs to support that, rather than have every single base have a wheelchair accessible car. That's the solution that we think gets the service to the people who need it without spending millions of dollars that it's not necessary to spend. So I hope that you will agree with me and with us at TLC that that's the cost-effective way to accomplish this goal. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. In the refusals rule, I think taxi drivers referring to buy and bust. I can compete with you. When the taxi drivers mentioning or using the term buy and bust, they're referring to the other way around, because they're supposed, under TLC rule, they're supposed to, under TLC rules and regulation, to pick up customers based on radio dispatching. Right.
Oh, I understand that. Okay.
Now, some TLC law enforcement officers, what they do is they carry bags or show up on a wheelchair or carry a walking stick to bait these drivers. That's what we call buy and bust. And if they accept by using their high sense of compassion, they get tickets, they get fined. That's illegal, that's loyal.
I'm sorry, now I understand. Okay. All right. Am I right that what you're talking about is buy and bust, if you will, enforcement of the you're talking about isn't by and bus enforcement of the